No doubt, Ghana championed the cause for African independence in the late 1950s, led by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's vision. Ghana did not only want the freedom for itself, it wanted the same for all Africa. But just like many parts of the continent, the joy of independence soon gave way to the shadows of coup and counter-coups. Democracy became fragile, and when soldiers began to rule, the guns spoke louder than the ballot. Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown by the army, and what follows was a cycle of instability, coup upon coup, promises upon promises. But this is the story of one man who changed Ghana's military and political story forever. A man who rose from the ranks, faced execution, survived it, and returned stronger. A man who would later execute his own officers, not for greed, but for what he called a cleansing of corruption. His name was Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, the man they call J J Rawlings. Welcome to the Bearside History Stories. When Jerry John Rawlings first appeared on Ghana political stage in May 1979, he was a young Air Force officer, bold, fiery, and deeply frustrated by the corruption and inequalities in the military government. He led a small mutiny that failed, and then he was arrested. But when he was brought to a trial, he did something unexpected. He took full responsibility. He defended the junior soldiers who followed him, and the public fell in love with his honesty. Then on June 4th, 1979, sympathetic soldiers broke into the guard room and freed him. That day, a revolution began. They called it the June 4th Uprising. Rawlings and his men took control of the country, and soon one word began to echo through the barracks: cleansing. He said Ghana's soul was dirty, stained by greed, bribes, and injustice, and he believed the only way to purify the nation was through blood. And so came the executions. In June 1979, Jerry John Rawlings Armed Forces Revolutionary Council, the AFRC, arrested several former heads of states and senior officers. They were accused of corruption, misuse of power, and betrayal of the people. Among them were General Ignatius Kutu Achampong, Ghana military ruler from 1972 to 1978. He was married to Faustina Achampong, and together they had 7 children. He was accused of enriching himself and his close circle while the nation's economy suffered. He spent his final days in a quiet reflection, asking his family to remember him kindly. The next person was General Frederick William Kwesi Akufo, who had overthrown Achampong and ruled until 1979. He was married to Emily Akufo, a quiet woman of faith. They had several children who would later watch the world remember their father not just as a soldier, but as a man who tried and failed to restore order. Lieutenant General Akwesi Amankwa Afrifa, Ghana former head of state from the late 1960s. He was once a hero, then a farmer, and finally a madman. He was also executed. He left behind his wife, and young family who never said goodbye to him. These three men, all former head of states, were taken to the Teshi military range in Accra. They faced the firing squad under a dim light, quiet evening sky. And as the soldiers pulled their triggers, Ghana history changed forever. But the purge didn't end there. The next person was Major General Edward Kweku Utuka, commander of the border guards, a husband, a father, a man who once protected Ghana borders, now facing his own comrades gone. Rear Admiral Joy Kobla Amedume, Chief of Naval Staff. He left behind a wife, children who remember him as gentle, disciplined, and devoted to the sea. Colonel Roger Fairley, a former commissioner for works and housing, he was married with 4 children, a man known for his sense of humor and his quiet faith. Colonel George Miyila, another respected officer, husband, father, who had once represented Ghana abroad. He was also executed that dark month. One by one, in total 8 senior officers, including former head of state, were executed between June and July 1979 by J J Rawlings. To some, it was justice. To others, it was murder. Ghana was stunned. Never before had it been known that its own soldiers been turned against one another in public. Families mourn fathers, husbands, brothers, men who had once led the nation. Some wept in silence, others whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was the only way to stop the endless cycle of coup. J J Rawlings called it a house cleansing exercise. He says it was not revenge, but a moral rebite. He told Ghanaians that the blood of the guilty would water the root of a new society. But deep down, deep, deep down, many feared it has gone too far. The executions, though swift, left scars that would last for generations. Even those who believe in Rawlings, his revolutions, could not forget the cries of the firing squad. Months later, Rawlings handed power to civilian government. But Ghana's story was not done. In December 1981, he returned again, leading another coup. This time, he stayed. He ruled Ghana for almost 2 decades, first as military leader and later as a democratically elected president. Under him, Ghana found stability, economic reform, and a renewed sense of national pride. But the ghost of 1979 never left. For every family he saved from corruption, there was another that mourned a father who was taken too soon. To some, J J Rawlings was a hero who saved Ghana from collapse. To others, he was a man haunted by the blood he spilled to rebuild the nation. As the night deepens and the rain falls steady, remember this: revolutions are not born from pain, and often from belief. J J Rawlings believed that Ghana could be better, and he paid the price to make it so. Whether history calls him a savior or a sinner, one thing is certain: he left a mark that can never be erased. This has been the Bedside History Stories. Have a good night.